Hello, everyone. The sources of power often seen in organizations are of an individual basis, of social power, and of structural power basis. Coercive power, legitimate power, referent power, expert power, and reward power are the five bases of social power found in French and Raven's models. Coercive power involves a dependent relationship between the driving agent and the recipient of force. An example of this type of power might be seen when someone is negligent in their job duties and the immediate supervisor repeatedly threatens to go to the manager with the negligence unless the person does what they ask them to do. Legitimate power derives from authority and social and control norms. It involves loyalty, social rank, and the organizational hierarchy, so that the influenced individual believes the driving force agent's use of power is just and right. An example of this type of power would be that we would perceive that our elders or someone in charge are always right and we should do as we are told by them and not question their authority. Referent power derives from the driving agent's personal charisma and its effects on the recipient of influence. The recipient's attribution of prestige to the driving agent leads to a desire to please or emulate the agent. An example of this type of power source is if we admire or respect someone and seek their approval, we always do as they ask. Expert power derives from the recipient's perception of knowledge passed by the driving agent of force. An example of this type of power is when someone has some type of credentials, such as a doctor and would with a patient. Reward power provides an incentive for the person on the receiving end of influence to change his or her behavior, expecting to receive a reward or recognition. An example would be a supervisor telling a worker they would receive some type of reward if they do as they have instructed them to do. The structural power bases are resource power, decision power, and information power. These types of power are usually held by people in leadership or ownership of an organization. Resource power is the ability to generate and control organizational assets, staff, equipment, and funds. Decision power is the ability to make decisions on behalf of or for an organization. Information power is a source of organizational influence occurring to individuals who have or have access to information that is valued and difficult to obtain. When members of an organization exercise power and political game plans, it can have positive impacts on the organization. Henry Misfit developed an elaborate model of organizational behavior as a series of political games and players, influences, that represent different external and internal interest groups seeking to control the organization's decision and actions. The decisions and actions of members of an organization can be positive when using Mesmer's model. Empire building and counterinsurgency can have positive impacts on organizations. An example of a positive impact of counterinsurgency in my experience at an organization I worked was when an inmate patient took a nurse hostage for 8 hours. Many newscast members were trying to interview the staff that was involved, but our CEO prohibited us from speaking to the media. He had our public relations spokesperson do all the interviews so that we could have a positive impact on the situation instead of a bunch of different stories. An example of a positive impact in the empire building and on the experience that I had in the organization would be when we had a manager where we had one director and 4 different managers, one for labor and delivery, one for postpartum, one for newborn nursing, and one for NICU. The postpartum manager and the newborn nursery both resigned at request, and the jobs were combined. The labor delivery nurse took on the postpartum unit, so that she was the manager of both those units, and then the NICU manager took on the newborn nursing manager's position, and so she was the manager for both of those, the newborn nursing and NICU. By doing this, a positive impact was done on cost cutting for the department.